Welcome to Essential Ingredients, powered by Next Gen Purpose, hosted by me, Justine Reichman. Every Tuesday, we serve up thoughtful conversations with founders, sustainability leaders, and community organizers who share their stories and missions within the regenerative food sphere. It's all about boosting forward-thinking folks and brands working to make better for you and better for the planet food more accessible. Welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Stephanie Berlin, CEO and founder of Wandel. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And it was, right before we got on, we got to catch up a little bit, which always, I think, makes everything so much more comfortable and you can connect with one another. So it really impacts and changes how we get to have these conversations. So I was grateful to have those few minutes with you.
I agree. I could have turned those few minutes into 20 minutes. I could have kept going on.
Me too. So Stephanie, for those not familiar with Wandel, because not everybody's familiar with it, even though I am now, and I've tasted it and really liked it. Can you share with everybody what Wandel is?
Yes. So Wandel, first and foremost, is my mom's mandel bread recipe. And mandel bread, for those who are not familiar with mandel bread is a traditional Jewish treat that is twice baked. So it's, traditionally hard and crunchy. It's originated in, Middle Eastern Europe. And just like mandel bread, if some people aren't familiar with mandel bread, its first cousin is the biscotti that's based in Italy. So universally, this twice baked cookie reappears all over the world in different varying cultures. Wandel, which is my recipe that my mom has been making me for 30 plus years, is once baked. So it's like a modern, nod to a very traditional universal treat. And I dropped the M in Wandel and replaced it with the W because that twice baked cookie is so worldly and reappears, weaves it throughout history and culture. So the W stands for worldly. And here we are with Wandel. I know it's kind of a long explanation of like where it's based from and how we got to Wandel, but there you go.
I was curious why Wandel. Really, yeah. I was. And now that you're saying mandel bread, I'm thinking about the mandel bread my grandmother used to bake because I loved it. And then I was thinking about the pinwheel cookies. And then
I love pinwheel cookies. Yeah. Was your grandmother's mandel bread, hard and crunchy?
Yes.
Yes, which is amazing, and it makes it a little softer when you dunk it in coffee, but there is that texture difference between, my modern take Wandel versus, traditional mandel bread, Mandelbrot, biscotti.
So have you marketed for the holidays? Because I think
we're working on it. So, this business, I call Wandel my professional and personal journey. Professionally, if Wandel were to have closed tomorrow, I would literally say to myself, I just got the best education in business school. It has transformed my mind in terms of how I look at numbers and business development and operations. And then, personally, it's forced me to really take a look in the mirror and, face this imposter syndrome, confidence, like, can I do this? It's like, I have a business, I got to keep it going. So I am on such a journey and it has truly changed my life. And with that being said, I think in any business, you identify what's working and what's not. And what is not working turns into a problem and how do you solve it? So there's a few things we are, kind of doing behind the scenes and pivoting to make this, to build in for the longevity of Wandel.
So I know that you mentioned you have some exciting new collaborations for the holidays. Can you share some of those with us?
Yes, I can. So while we're kind of working on some R&D for the long term, I am partnering with a dear pal of mine who I respect as a woman, as a founder. Her name's Allie Chernick. Her company is called Allie's Banana Bread. She is also based out in New York. Her banana bread is divine. And we will be partnering together for the holidays, for specifically Hanukkah. We're figuring out what that collab will look like. Are we going to do a joint product? We're figuring all that out. But the exciting thing is we'll be doing an event at this female-owned brewery called Talea. And that's exciting in itself, since, you know, the beer industry is so male dominated, and Talea in itself is just a disruptor. So, you know, it's an exciting collaboration on many levels, that I get to work with Allie, that we're able to do this event and eventize the product at Talea. So a little sneak peek of what's to come, but it's going to be good. It's going to be good and yummy and fun.
Yeah,
well, stay tuned.
And then if I'm in New York, I'm going to have to come.
Please. December 9th. We know it's December 9th.
Okay. Well, that's good. So, okay. So let's go back a little bit. How long were you pondering the idea of Wandel?
So, you know, Wandel actually came to me pretty quickly. The idea of taking my mom's recipe and turning it into a product that I could get into as many people's hands, that decision really happened overnight. I'm the kind of person, if I don't jump into the deep end and figure it out, I will procrastinate and procrastinate. I think the idea, though, of me working for myself and doing something that, you know, whether it's selling a yummy product for the greater good, or, you know, Wandel is a delicious product. The brand itself is all about community. So I knew I wanted to do something, whether it was, you know, building communities or selling something for the greater good. I think that idea I've been manifesting forever. I just never knew what it was. And then Wandel fell into my lap. I knew some other people that were selling baked goods during the pandemic. You know, some would do drops, some would, you know, sell through Instagram. And so I was looking at a few different business models. And then, you know, I launched Wandel, and the way I launched it looked nothing like these other people's businesses. But the idea to launch came pretty quickly for me. Yeah.
So it wasn't something you sat on since you were a kid, eating this Wandel bread, saying, I'm one day going to figure out how I can make, no, that wasn't it. So
that was not it.
Were you working at the time?
So yeah, I was working, until last May, since graduating college, so 10 plus years, I had worked in film. So I had taken post in film publicity, film marketing, where I would oversee an entire movie rollout. We did a lot of Oscar campaigning. There was a small stint that I took where I worked in film development, where we were packaging movies from the ground up. But the interesting correlation, not that selling Wandel has anything to do with the film industry, but, you know, whatever project I was working on, whether it was developing a film or thinking about, like, how can we roll this picture out? Most of the films I worked on brought characters to the screen that were going through issues that could kind of allow other people to look up and be like, oh, wow, like I'm struggling with something similar. You know, it's bringing this idea to the forefront, maybe lessening stigma. And that idea there, you know, how can I build something and create a safe place for people to authentically connect? That lends to what I did in film, and also lends to the brand of Wandel itself, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And I guess one thing that came up since we started this conversation was how it's so cultural, right? I mean, this is a cultural food. And I think that oftentimes, I mean, I live in Northern California now, where if Rosh Hashanah comes along, I'm like, I don't know how to put that together, because the appetizing here just doesn't exist the same way it does in the Northeast. And I saw during COVID, one of my college friends, he's married to this woman who we became friendly years ago. Yeah. And she started a company called Babka Bailout. Have you heard of that?
I haven't, but I know Babka very well, and it's a very similar product to Wandel. It's delicious.
Yeah. So, but my point is that I love talking about this intersection of culture and food, because, you know, as I can't find what I want for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, right? They don't even I can't even find a place that slices the salmon or knows what Nova is. They're like, we have salmon. I'm like, do you have Nova? They're like, we have lox. I'm like, is it salty? They're like, no, it's not salty. I'm like, it's not lox. So
yeah, exactly.
Have these whole conversations. Yeah. And I feel like it's culturally, it's a different language. B, I don't feel like, you know, I think it's important to integrate these cultures into all the different communities. And I think that by revisiting these, like you're doing with Wandel, you bring a new modern approach to it, where it becomes more mainstream, but also is built off of your community, your experiences, and your culture. And I don't know if that was important to you, but when you're telling me this story, that's, I was like excited because I feel like culture often gets lost in, these newer brands. And I think it's a great conversation to have. And I think it's really innovative, and it's important for people to be able to have the foods that they grew up with and experienced and available in a better way, in today's way, because how they made it back then is different than how you make it today. And people are more geared towards what are the ingredients. Let's be transparent about this. And so back to you now here, wondering how that integrates into your thought process and what you were doing.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up because, I've been selling Wandel now since the end of 2021. I mean, granted, when I started, it was a very minimal capacity. I was selling once a week at a farmer's market. And then, from there, slowly I built a website that I've since upgraded, but I was shipping, online out of my apartment that I started Wandel in with no dishwasher. And then I would drop at some retailers. And so I've looked at the past year and a half as, in a way, market research, from the repeat customers who really love the product to people who love the brand. And, from there, you can kind of identify, well, what's working and what do we have to change? And so, when I launched Wandel initially, I wasn't sure if I wanted to launch a Jewish treat per se. And I love being Jewish. I love the tradition of being Jewish. I just wasn't sure. And part of the uncertainty was like, well, I want everyone to feel like they can eat it or to be included. And the more research I've done, the more, conversations I've had with customers as I repivot certain things on the back end that I mentioned, I am updating some of the branding, for example. Right now we sell in resealable bags. We'll be shifting to boxes. I just think boxes are prettier. But not only are we shifting to boxes, but I would like to identify the history of the treat and lean in to the Jewishness more so than I was doing, without necessarily saying, oh, this is a Jewish treat, but like the people that know will know. And then the people that don't know, I'm hoping their curiosity will be piqued. I'm hoping that we can educate them a little bit, and then they can say, oh, wow, this is really different from what I'm used to, what my grandma made me. But there's some, similarities, there's some crossover. I would like to know more about this and the history. And then, hopefully that can bridge the gap of even this idea of two people from two completely different places, two different beliefs can find some kind of common denominator, whether it's eating a piece of Wandel or this. And by no means am I, being like, oh, well, I'm throwing out there that food is a unifier. It is. But, if everyone's munching on this twice baked cookie, if you read about where it appears in history, I like to say each bite of Wandel reminds us that we are more similar than different. And so with that being said, I am leaning more into the Jewishness because I think that cultural aspect is really, really important. And it took me a year and a half to really understand why it's important. But, based on the research, it's there. So it's very, very important to me.
And I think that also, I don't know about you, but I love checking out other kinds of foods when you travel around the world, when you go to new places. And I don't think I'm the only person. I think people are curious about what is, the food of, Singapore? What is the food of, these people or those communities or these communities? And being able to make that accessible and have it be good and, not something that's in particular made for a holiday, but a treat that was inspired by something that you grew up with, I think is super special and allows people to, learn a little bit more, be open, and a little bit more as to how, culture really does inspire our innovations.
It does. And, I'm also hoping that not only does culture inspire, but even when you think about history or you think about of traditions past, there's a certain note of nostalgia that's kind of also incorporated in that. And I think nostalgia is very important. I think it allows us to be creative. I think it allows us to be vulnerable. I think it allows us, to give people a chance. So, I'm hoping that resonates with people too.
Yeah, I'm curious. You went from being in film, you started Wandel. When you planned to start this and you took that leap of faith, did you go, I'm going to just self-fund this for X period of time? Did you say, I'm going to then raise money? Did you have a plan in mind?
No, I had no plan until, a handful of months ago. I was looking at, I knew nothing about anything. I had no plan. Numbers in general, I always excelled at writing and history in school. Numbers and science it's never come naturally to me. I mean, now I can confidently tell you I understand the numbers of my business, but I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants to a degree because there was demand for the product and people really liked, the energy that I was putting out there. I didn't even realize what a shelf stable product meant. There were so many components that I didn't realize, but I was forced to learn it because, I wanted to see the business through. So I have been self-funding. It's pretty scary and pretty invigorating, that I can go sell something I created. And as I look at the next few years of the business and understand what will my sales strategy look like, and what are my cogs going to look like the more I scale, there is more of a business plan in place. Took a lot of learning, a lot of growing pains. So now there is something in place. I will eventually have to fundraise, which is scary to me, and I'll do it. But I'm also, I've never done anything like this before. So I'm really learning as I go, and asking questions along the way and just making it work.
So out of curiosity, and I ask you this because there's so many founders that, they fall into it. It's from passion, it's from all sorts of things, and it wasn't planned. And from your experience, what would you say to a new founder that, wanted to start a business, from the experience that you have now doing this?
I would say, do it. I would advise, and I can't even believe I'm saying this because I really am so forward thinking in terms of self-expression. There's nothing too big or too small people can't share with me. I think I was so ready to work for myself and build something for myself that because of this mentality, sink or swim, I definitely jumped in a little, not prematurely, because I really think there's something to be said with just putting it out there and seeing what works and then pivoting when something doesn't work. I jumped in so fast without even, maybe there was a little more research I could have done about CPG or the different aisles in grocery. But then again, I don't know. I also just say jump in and you figure it out. And I kind of do give that advice a lot. And then I caution being like, well, if there's any little things you can research just to educate yourself, maybe that's not the worst idea. But I'm a sink or swim mentality. That's my mentality, and it doesn't work for everyone. But in general, even the business, as I go back to my personal journey, it's allowed me to hone in on my detail skills. And, I've since started, I have all these little systems and processes that I've implemented to just streamline communication and streamline R&D. So you learn as you go. I really do.
How large is your team now?
Well, it's just me, and I have this woman named Jezebel was baking with me, and she's a trained pastry chef, and Jezebel is like family to me at this point. And then I have someone that I kind of consult from time to time who is a strategist to a degree, but I just pick his brain for little questions and then I just kind of run with it.
That's exciting. So
it is just me essentially right now.
I get it. I totally get it. So I'm curious though, when you decided to self-fund, did you say I wanted to have this much money before I did it, or was it totally not even a thought because you had just come up with the idea and you're like, okay, I'm going to go do this? How did money play a role for you in helping you make your decision?
So when
what role did money have basically in your decision-making process?
So when I started Wandel, there were a few things I knew I needed to spend money on. I wanted to trademark the name. So that's not only paying a trademark fee, which isn't crazy, but then there are lawyer fees, you know.
Right.
So I tried to account for what's the cost of trademarking all around. Then, you know, I brought someone on to help me design the logo and build a very simple website. That was a little bit of money. Then there's, you know, the trial and error of ordering packaging. From where I was, I ordered it off Amazon. But, you know, I think in my mind, I'm like, all right, it's going to cost me this much to get it off the ground. You know, every week I'd sell at the farmer's market, I'd make it back, but it was at least $60 to, you know, get a table and everything at the farmer's market. So there was a lump sum that I knew I was going to commit to that was fine. But then I think and this is something that's also helping me in my personal life, there's so many ancillary fees that add up to so much. So I knew what I could spend out of my savings. And then I kind of drained most of my savings because I was like, I got to keep going. And so in truth, my family will be stepping in to help me with a mini infusion for some equity of the company. They believe in it. I couldn't do it without them. You know, even without, you know, my mom having some equity of the company, she is my sounding, you know, it's
Right.
like I'm doing this with my mom to a degree because I call her 20 times a day. So yeah, and that is the truth of it. I actually drained my savings. I drained my savings, and I wouldn't do it another way.
Okay, that's what I was just going to ask you. Would you?
Yeah, I drained it.
You know, knowing. Okay, well, listen, if you're not going to believe in it, somebody else, but there are a lot of people say, don't invest your own money. What do you say to that?
I say, make the most educated decision you can on, you know, like some people could look at me and be like, wow, that girl has grit and she really believes in herself, but is it the smartest thing to go drain? Probably not. So, I mean, I would say do it. And I would also say, like, you know, if this is it depends on every circumstance.
Right.
I would promote financially responsible and all, you know, and the business is also teaching me that, like, I monitor everything that goes in and everything that comes out. And I also believe in this to the point where it's like, I was like, I got to do this. Like, I got to make it happen.
Well, I also think, you know, I don't know personally, like if you're married or have kids, but I think that you know, people have different circumstances that allow them the flexibility to do things like that. If you don't have anybody depending on you and you're the only one, you may have more flexibility to do that because it's just
exactly. Yes. And that's why I say it's different for everyone. I don't have kids. I'm single right now. I mean, I have my baby guy, but you know, that's what's working for me. And I think every situation for every person is unique to their own, you know?
Right. So this is super exciting. I really appreciate you sharing your story, you know, both personally and professionally. And just as we come to close everything, I'm wondering, in addition to the collaboration you have with the banana bread folks that I'm super excited to taste, what else we can expect to see from Wandel and where people might be able to find it?
So Wandel, you will right now, I'm selling on my website. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you can just go to eatwandel.com. We send newsletters out periodically with different coupon codes. So we're selling through my site. And then right now, while we kind of switch things up, I'm moving out of my kitchen to a co-man facility. The 2 stores we'll be back at all the other stores that I had previously gotten into, but you can find us at Zabar's and Butterfield, both locations in Manhattan. And then hopefully by the end of the year, you know, you can see us back at Westside Market, back at Brooklyn Fair, and more, predominantly in the Northeast.
Okay, it sounds like it, because those are all New York tri-state area stores.
Yep. But, you know, hopefully we'll be amplifying our doors. So, you know, maybe one day you'll see us in D'Agostino. Maybe we'll be in Union Market. So we're looking to scale, you know, in a nice way, but in the Northeast. And then from there, hopefully we can infiltrate the Midwest and then on. But I believe in going slow, staying lean and narrow. I think when you cast too wide of a net, you might get lost. But those are my learnings. Everyone's different, but hopefully you'll see Wandel in expanded stores in New York and Brooklyn by the end of the year, definitely early next year.
And if for those that are not in the area, don't forget to go to eatwandel.com.
Yes.
So, and don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter to get her coupons, because everyone loves a coupon.
Who doesn't?
I mean, I love a coupon code. So thank you, Stephanie, so much for joining us, for sharing your story. I thank you for sending me the Wandel, because my household tried it and it was real fun. And it was very reminiscent of things that my grandmother made. So it was a little nostalgic and brought back some lovely memories, and really was.
Did you feel nostalgic when you ate it?
I did. And I also, one of the reasons I asked you about culture and the holidays is because while it's not necessarily something it's meant for everyone, and it's not going to be in the aisle just for the holidays, there's also an opportunity, I think, when you go into Butterfield and you talk to Joelle and you say to her, right, can we do something for Hanukkah or something? And I think that in those small stores where people in New York in particular, I think there's another opportunity to tap into that specific market, so that people are not just going to Greenberg's for the rugula, but they're going to, go get your Wandel. And it becomes part of it. It integrates into it, and it becomes something that people look for and recommend and get shipped in from wherever they are, so that it's on their table for those holidays to share, aside from Passover.
And I want to just add this last note because I think it's helpful. And I tell, yesterday I spoke to someone who's starting out, and this is the advice I gave them, but you brought up Joelle. Butterfield has been such a great retail partner for me, not only because the product moves there, but I mean, I have been through iterations of packaging with them. They've given me their insight from the retailer's perspective and have been patient with me. And I think, maintaining and nurturing those relationships with the retailers is really, really important. So
they have a lot of experience.
That's what, prompted that.
They have a lot of experience. They know what works, what doesn't work. They see, how is this going to pop off a shelf or something else? They lend a lot of experience. So we have a nod to Joelle and to Butterfield Market.
Yes.
Again, so excited for you. Congratulations, Mazel Tov. And keep me posted on how things progress. I definitely want to at least taste the collaboration.
You will taste it. The minute we have something, you will taste it. And if you're in New York on December 9th, you will be our VIP guest.
Awesome. You're so sweet. Well, I look forward to continuing to hear how things progress. And if there's anything at all we can do to support you, let us know.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. Great to chat. Thanks for digging in. To learn more about these stories, you can access the show notes at nextgenpurpose.com/podcast. If you like what you just heard, head to Apple Podcasts or wherever you do your listening to hit subscribe and leave us a review. To join the conversation, follow us on Instagram at essential.ingredients and check out our weekly newsletter for your dose of food industry info. Visit the Next Gen Purpose YouTube channel for videocasts of each episode and give this episode a like while you're there. You can also connect with me directly at justine.reichman on Instagram and The Real Justine Reichman on TikTok. See you next week.